hitched to the fading star of a disposable periodical. And of course, the elephant in the room was the English. In its early days, US copyright law was non-existent and didn't recognize anyone else's. Publishers were free to take the talents of Dickens, Trollope, and anyone else and freely print it without permission or coin. Competing against that gave you a decided disadvantage. Within these stories, you will also find very occasional examples of historical prejudice. A few words here and there which in today's world some may find inappropriate or even offensive. It is not our intention to make anyone feel uncomfortable, but to show that the world, in order to change, must reconcile itself to the actual truth, rather than put it out of sight. Context is everything, both to understand and to illuminate the path forward. The author's words are set. Our reaction to them encourages our change. Within this melting pot of styles, genres, and wordplay, one fact stands out. The American short story literary tradition has a strong, vibrant, and almost inclusive history, if you know where to look, which is here.
Paul's Case by Willa, Cather. It was Paul's afternoon to appear before the faculty of the Pittsburgh High School to account for his various misdemeanors. He had been suspended a week ago, and his father had called at the principal's office and confessed his perplexity about his son. Paul entered the faculty room suave and smiling. His clothes were a trifle outgrown, and the tan velvet on the collar of his open overcoat was frayed and worn. But for all that, there was something of the dandy about him, and he wore an opal pin in his neatly knotted black four-in hand and a red carnation in his buttonhole. This latter adornment, the faculty somehow felt, was not properly significant of the contrite spirit befitting a boy under the ban of suspension. Paul was tall for his age, and very thin, with high, cramped shoulders and a narrow chest. His eyes were remarkable for a certain hysterical brilliancy, and he continually used them in a conscious, theatrical sort of way, peculiarly offensive in a boy. The pupils were abnormally large, as though he were addicted to belladonna, but there was a glassy glitter about them, which that drug does not produce. When questioned by the principal as to why he was there, Paul stated, politely enough, that he wanted to come back to school. This was a lie, but Paul was quite accustomed to lying, found it, indeed, indispensable for overcoming friction. His teachers were asked to state their respective charges against him, which they did with such a rancor and aggrievedness as evinced that this was not a usual case. Disorder and impertinence were among the offenses named, yet each of his instructors felt that it was scarcely possible to put into words the real cause of the trouble, which lay in a sort of hysterically defiant manner of the boys, in the contempt which they all knew he felt for them, and which he seemingly made not the least effort to conceal. Once, when he had been making a synopsis of a paragraph at the blackboard, his English teacher had stepped to his side and attempted to guide his hand. Paul had started back with a shudder and thrust his hands violently behind him. The astonished woman could scarcely have been more hurt and embarrassed had he struck at her. The insult was so involuntary and definitely personal as to be unforgettable. In one way and another, he had made all his teachers, men and women alike, conscious of the same feeling of physical aversion. In one class, he habitually sat with his hand shading his eyes. In another, he always looked out of the window during the recitation. In another, he made a running commentary on the lecture with humorous intention. His teachers felt this afternoon that his whole attitude was symbolized by his shrug and his flippantly red carnation flower, and they fell upon him without mercy, his English teacher leading the pack. He stood through it, smiling.